Hello, thank you for watching my video again. My name is RJ, student of Cal University, and the class is Organization Behavior. The purpose of this video is to explain the communication process in organization. This video will explain functions of communication, key parts in communication process, and the communication channels. What is communication, or how communication is defined in organizational behavior? Communication is been defined as the process that include transference and the understanding of meaning. Communication involves more than one person. Whenever we are interacting with one person, we are communicating with each other. Research indicates that poor communication is probably the most frequently cited source of interpersonal conflict, because of the fact individuals spend nearly 70% of their waking hours communicating. The two-way communication process involves the transmission of a message from sender to a receiver and back. Communication can of course take many forms: writing, reading, speaking, listening, and watching. What are the functions of communication? Communication within the organization serves four major functions: control, motivation, emotional expression, information. Control is where the organization has authority and official guidelines that employees are required to follow. It is also the organizational policy. Motivation is when the employee is motivated to the job performance, how well they are doing, and what can be done to improve performance. Motivation also acts as a reinforcement and goal setting. Emotional expression: interacting in the work group or team group, employees can show their frustration or feeling of satisfaction. Communication provides a release for the emotional expression of feeling and for fulfillment of social needs. Finally, information is the final function by which a worker in the group share information to facilitate the decision maker to identify and evaluate alternative choices. Now one of these four functions should be seen as being more important than the other, because in any communication interaction, one or more of these functions can take place. The communication process. Before communication can take place, a purpose expressed as a message to be transmitted is needed. The message will pass between the sender and a receiver. The message is encoded and then passes by the way of some medium channel to the receiver. To understand better this communication process, we will see the key parts of this model. Sender, encoding, message channel, noise, decoding, receiver, and feedback. These are the key part of the communication process. The next graphic will illustrate how the general communication process occurs. This is the communication process. General example of communication process. Sender initiate the message by encoding a thought. He selects appropriate words, charts, and other symbols in this step to convey his idea as clearly as possible. Encoding means converting the message in symbolic forms which can be transmitted through the medium. Channel. Channel is the medium through which the message travels between sender and receiver. Here we have also noise. Noise represents all the communication barrier that distorts the clarity of the message. For instance, information overloads, semantic difficulties, and more. For instance, when we say information overload, we mean that the information we receive exceeds our processing capacity. Receiver is the object to whom the message is directed. However, before the message can be received, the symbols in it must be translated into the form that can be understood by the receiver. This step is called the decoding, message decoding. Feedback is the final link of communication process loop. It is the check on how successful the message was transmitted. It determines whether understanding between sender and receiver have been achieved. Choice of communication channels. This graphic illustrates the information richness of communication channels. Why do people choose one channel of communication over another? For instance, phone calls instead of face-to-face talk. However, the model of media richness has been developed to explain channel selection among managers. Researchers have found that channels differ in their capacity to convey information. As you can see in the graphic, the face-to-face conversation and the video conference are high channel richness, followed by light speech and phone conversation. Channels are rich because they have the ability to facilitate rapid feedback and offer multiple information cues, words, postures, facial expression, gestures, information. It also provides maximum amount of information to be transmitted during the communication episode. On the other hand, low channel richness, as you can see in the graphic, memos, letter, email, voicemail, facilitate managers to communicate routine messages efficiently. Finally, the goal of perfect communication is choosing the perfect channel, being an effective listener, and using feedback. The communication process represents an exchange of messages, but the outcome is, meaning that may or may not approximate those the sender intended.